Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hit Refresh, Business Resilience in a Post-COVID World, presented jointly by Mint and SAP. I am Roudra Bhattacharya, and today I'm joined by some eminent industry leaders for discussing post-pandemic business strategies for coping with the various challenges of this new normal. Be it the lack of clarity about changing consumer behavior, or the issues surrounding an irregular supply and demand, business leaders across various industries have struggled to come to terms with the upheaval caused by COVID-19. Today, we're going to talk about the exit strategies that companies should adopt and the role technology can play in the same. I'm very happy to introduce you to all our esteemed panel of thought leaders. We have Mr. Ashok Somani, Managing Director, Somani Ispat Private Limited. Dhiraj Kumar Khetan, Director, Sri Salasar Balaji Agrotech Private Limited. Mr. Prakash Goenka, Managing Director, Devashree Ispat Private Limited. Mr. Palash Nandy, CEO of Numeric. And Mr. Vinod Palakkil, South Regional Director Sales at SAP India. A very warm welcome to each one of you. Really looking forward to the insights you will share with us today and our audience on social media. I would like to start with a question for all our speakers. So the pandemic has created a ton of challenges, right? And we've all companies have figured out innovative ways to sort of go around some of this. Demand slowdown being one of the most crucial ones, especially for the first 3-4 months, right? What have been your strategies to cope with these challenges? What are the, anecdotes or the innovative new ideas that you have sort of implemented in the past few months to deal with these solutions? Mr. Khetan, maybe if you'd like to start.
Good evening, everybody. It's my privilege to having my words on behalf of my company, Sri Salasar Balaji Agrotech Private Limited. That pandemic is suffered every human being as well as every industry, which is that except the medical line. Everybody suffered very badly, and whereas our fixed costs like interest, manpower cost, salary, staff, it is intact. So everybody suffered very badly, and we are from the textile industry, and textile industry is labor-intensive industry. Whereas the March, April, all labor run away from our industry. Then we have gathered slowly from the May, June, July, slowly gathered. Still now we have not able to gather 100%, 80-90% we have only achieved. So that industry suffered reasonably significantly, that suffered, but thing is that we got the very good order last 2-3 months, especially in export order. Some Chinese, that European, American order, earlier they used to buy from the China, they diverted to India. So we are enjoying that. We are trying to recover as much as possible. But that fixed cost just I want to add one more fixed cost like interest burden, salary we had paid, that is became extra burden, which we have to need to recover from our management skill or any favor we'll get it from the government or whatever it possible. We are looking the possibilities, sir.
What have been your coping strategies for the, as the company sort of dealt with this unprecedented black swan event, so to say?
So Roudra, first of all, thank you for having me here. Just to give an answer to the question that you asked, just to put it in context, we've got roughly around 1,500 people within our organization spread across 255 cities in India. This is just to give you an idea about, let's say, how widely we are spread, and this accentuates the challenge that we faced. And for us, it was very clear that if we have to come out of this strategy, there are a few of this pandemic, this challenge, we had to have a few things clearly defined. One is focus, is to identify that there are certain segments where there are still opportunities, whereas certain segments, the opportunities would be significantly less. So how can we focus so that we can make use of the opportunities as well as our skills to the best possible use? Two is discipline, in terms of the fact that in a scenario like this, we have to be extremely disciplined in our business, whether in terms of not just the top line, but also the profitability, because this is something that would help you sustain through the challenge. Then the third thing is agility. Because during these challenges, there would be some, and we have gone through these in the months leading from April, May, June, that there were quite a few opportunities, and we had to really move very quickly to take advantage of that. Just to give an example, work from home. Okay, so when all organizations, all the people were working from home, this led to a demand of UPSs. But for home applications. So we had to quickly, let's say, reorient our strategy to be able to take advantage of that. Then we realized that this has some complications in the sense that people were wanting to buy it, not by physically going somewhere. Okay? So we had to ensure that the product reaches their place rather than them going somewhere and buying it. And two, people were hesitant to let people come into their homes to install it. Because of obviously health or rather the danger of health issues. So therefore we had to quickly develop a product that could be just plugged in. Okay, so we called it a do-it-yourself UPS. So for us, the way we have been able to cope is a combination of these three things: focus, discipline, and agility.
Wonderful. So innovating in terms of product as well as sort of, I think your distribution also, right? I mean, e-commerce led model. I'm sure you would have been
not just e-commerce led,
that's...
not just e-commerce led, but the fact is that even if people are, we had different models. So on one side, you had large corporates doing a deal with us, but then we had to ensure that we reach the products to the individual employees' homes. So this was a typical offline model, but the people were still not moving from the places. They were getting the products at their homes. Then there is, of course, also the offline, the online model. So it's been a combination of both. The ultimate objective being that the customer doesn't go out. He gets the product while sitting at home.
Interesting. Mr. Goenka, a little bit on this. I mean, the last few months, how has your company coped with the challenge posed by the pandemic, and clearly things are slowly getting better?
With the pandemic, it was a big challenge because we are having 1,200 laborers and staff with us, and we are paying a huge amount of electricity bill and huge amount of interest. 45 days our plant was closed due to lockdown, and 30% of laborers, they went away. But whoever was there, we paid full salary and wages to them for 45 days. We paid a big amount of maximum demand charges for electricity to the board. And without a single piece of production, we paid full interest to the bankers. So if we keep it aside, then when we started, we had to start with the 70% of the labor force. And truly it was a blessing in disguise for us, because whatever we used to produce with that set of laborers, we could produce with the same reduced force. So indirectly, we started saving very much more on the laborers. We prompted them, we told them that the company is in problem. So they agreed, and they supported the management also. So first thing, with the reduced workforce, we are getting the same set of production. Then we wanted to keep our liquidity so that if any contingency come in the future, so we can keep the liquidity with us. And we avoided all sort of unnecessary capex, this capital investment, which is not required. And the best thing was that we have to sell our material, because if we don't sell it, we can't meet our production matching with the sales. We cannot have a rotation and a continued production. By God's grace, we have a good name. Our brand is very popular. It's a good demand. So for us, post-COVID period was not that much of a pain. We could cope up with it very comfortably. And still, the market has picked up. Margins are there. So now we don't feel that the 45 days period was really painful, but not now.
Great. I mean, this is an interesting case. So this is a case of both the company supporting employees at a critical time by making sure that that they don't feel that much pain, and then the employees also paying it back in terms of supporting the company.
Yes.
Right. And this is more of a sort of a situation where you say, okay,
our relation with our employers are very healthy and very cooperative and very friendly.
Okay. So I think that these are one of the most interesting things when we have these conversations. We figured out the innovative ways a lot of companies have sort of got over the past few months, and most of this are not really defined processes that they teach you in management school or anywhere else, right? I mean, these are things that people have figured out how to solve real world problems at that moment, and this is really interesting, Mr. Somani. I mean, same question to you, because this is really the starting question. The last few months, the COVID pandemic, what are the strategies? What is the innovation? How have you coped as a company and come through it?
So it is style of our company's functioning. It has helped us to a very good extent. So the way our company functions, that has helped our company to a very good extent, because it has always been supportive to labor and its all employees, staff. So during pandemic also, we got full cooperation from them, and we never had any labor issue. Labor stays within factory. In fact, it is a steel servicing center, we call it. We have some process of on steel like TMT and HR coil, we decoil to deliver customers as per their required length. There we have labor and staff quarters also. So they stayed within the premises and no one went out, even during pandemic also. As usual, company takes good care of them, so they had no reason to go. And when all the mode of transportation was closed, there was no necessity also for them to travel anywhere. Very reachable distance within 15 kilometers. So we used to reach them, and if there is any need, necessity, all thing was taken care. And around 20th of April, our business has started on small transactions, like pharmaceutical companies and government sector. Okay. They have been in need of steel, and we are a regular supplier to steel more than 2-3 decades. So we started helping them, and our business started growing from April itself. In May 7th, when government has started this Unlock 1, that time our business in the May itself reached around 60-70%. In June, it was around 80-90%, because there was a good demand for quality steel, and many of the people, they were scared to operate. Then our company is generally well stocked, so we always maintain a very good inventory. In fact, because of that, we had some losses, but the customer service we could cater at that time, because prices dropped in the month of May and June. But we won the customers, so that has helped us in July, August, September. And from July onwards, market also started turning upward. Because steel demand, nobody predicted that it will revive so soon. But government strategy to push all the infrastructure project. And here in Telangana also, the real estate construction sector is doing better. So that also has helped us to revive the demand, to improve our sales.
Wonderful. That's interesting. So, what I take away from this is essentially that one is obviously making sure that the employees. I mean, this is a very human sort of challenge, right? The COVID, and one of the first things that all companies have focused on is taking care of the employees, and this is the same case here. How do you make sure that it's contained, that your employees are safe? But the other part is obviously keeping your inventories in check in order to make sure whenever the demand comes, you're able to supply it, and you don't suffer from a supply point of view. Correct, right? I mean, that is my understanding out of this. Taking this discussion to the next stage, one of the ways that most companies have dealt with the COVID situation is looking at how technology can support them in across functions, right? And especially at a time where social distancing is a norm, and you need to keep sort of reduced density across the shop floor, etc. Technology is definitely playing a bigger role. So coming to you, Mr. Palakkil, so what are the myths surrounding digitization that you would like to disperse so that organizations are more forthright in exploring technology and its benefits?
All right. So I think, Roudra, the biggest myth which I'd like to bust is that SAP is meant only for large organizations, right? So that itself is the biggest myth, because 80% of our business actually in India comes from the SME segment, right? What we've learned is SAP understands the requirements of the emerging business, and we also offer an innovative range of solutions. These offers are not only on the varied solution models, but varied deployment models. How do we give a customer a solution which can be adopted very quickly, which can be deployed very quickly, so that there's time to value, right? And all of this actually enables our emerging business to meet their not only current goals, but also future requirements. So what we've been doing of late, Roudra, is we've launched something called as a Global Bharat program, right, in association with CII, and which was launched by our Honorable Union Minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, sometime in June this year. So what this actually means is this is in line with the government's vision of enabling MSMEs to become globally more competitive, right? So we focused on 3 key areas. One is ensuring that we give them the technology backbone, right? We opened up something called as an Ariba Discovery, where all the MSMEs can get enrolled and put their products and services so that they're visibly globally and get orders from beyond the markets that they were actually catering to, right? And 2, most importantly, we also the most important thing is how do I enable my labor or staff to be digitally skilled, right? Which is extremely important. So we gave access to all the MSMEs to the lead of Code Unnati is one of the program where we had virtual e-learning sessions on not only financials, but how to do business during this time, soft skill, etc. All these accesses was given to MSMEs. And third, to ensure that MSMEs themselves do well and they become more resilient, we also launched a very affordable ERP on cloud, which actually helps them augment their business process and overcome all the inefficiencies that they have today, and then become globally competitive.
Really interesting. Mr. Nandy, if you had to, taking from technology, I mean, definitely that must be an important area for you. How have you sort of looked at technology as an enabler to sort of handle this difficult situation for you in the market?
Well, first of all, technology as an enabler was not, let's say, a new discovery for us
right.
During this pandemic. This is something that we have always been believed in. For the last close to 3 years now, we have been undergoing a digital transformation journey across the Legrand Group in the world, across 3 pillars. So we identified 3 pillars. One was customer experience, second pillar being operational excellence, and the third pillar being employee experience. And we have been, let's say, working towards this for the last 3 years. What has happened for sure is due to COVID, let's say, this whole program just got accelerated. So let's say if we were on the 3rd gear, we suddenly moved to the 6th gear thanks to this scenario that we are into. So this is something that, let's say on the ERP side, we work with SAP. On the CRM side, unfortunately, we don't work with SAP. We work with another brand. I wouldn't take the name right now. Plus, we do a lot of projects on automating all your, typical repetitive processes. So we are working with lots of bots to do that, so on and so forth. So this whole process has been ongoing for 3 years, and now we've just got accelerated this journey. What we have also utilized, that we realized that this period of the lockdown is also an opportunity for us in terms of upskilling and reskilling of people. And this is what we utilized a lot, and the amount of time that we have spent in utilizing teams to do these upskilling program and reskilling programs across the whole country This has been really a big learning experience for us. Okay. Previously, we thought that these programs can only be done face to face. But this scenario that we went through taught us that this can be done digitally and remotely. And we spent hours and hours and hours on doing this. So what we are very happy is that in terms of skill sets, when we came out of the lockdown, we were far better off than we were when we went into the lockdown. You can see this as a challenge in terms of business. Yes, it was a challenge, but on the other side, it was also an opportunity, because otherwise maybe we would have taken more longer period of time to do this exercise. During this lockdown, we were able to do it in a short period of time. So this for us was a big benefit of the lockdown.
Wonderful. So like they say, never waste a good crisis, right? I mean, you made the full utilization of it, and a lot of discovery. I'm sure across companies, a lot of us believe that much of the work could not be done remotely, and that is really happening. I mean, we are an example, and we are in the media industry, and I'm completely working remotely, and the paper is going out, the online publishing is happening, everything is working. Mr. Khetan, coming to you from agri sector point of view, normally you would think that's a sector where remote work is extremely challenging, and but maybe I'm wrong. So the pandemic has thrown open the idea that remote work in such industries is very difficult to implement, right? What efforts have you taken to make such a virtual shift happen? Have you been able to identify certain roles that can be done virtually? How have you dealt with the situation?
Sir, virtual is limited to some percentage of the public. We can say it is when you calculate as a whole, it is maybe 5% or 10%. But reality, the agriculture is not at all connected with virtual. Our textile industry is not at all connected with virtual. Maybe if we tell 100%, maybe 5% or 3%. This is the reality. Virtual is some different kind of industry for different kind of people. If you want to say that virtual is we are shifting to virtual, that is
it's not possible,
highly impossible.
Right.
We are into manufacturing, we are into trading, we are having only communication. Communication is the virtual, and the accounting software. This is the only important, and manpower and machining.
Correct.
So that is the role of virtual. The IT industry is something different than manufacturing industry, trading industry, that are totally different. And when you say that agriculture, we have only one thing, that they are able to sell their product online. That too, we can say, if take 100 scale, that too only 3% or 5%. So this much, it will take further time up, then they will able to sell their product online. So it will take most of the time. And one more, if you are talking about agriculture industry, that government is trying is level west with Swaminathan committee, that they are trying his best to increase the farm income double. They have raised MSME minimum support by 50% increase last 2-3 years. So they are doing their level best, sir. This is the thing, sir.
Interesting. So my question is to Mr. Palakkil. I mean, you handle go-to market strategy for SAP India in the South region. What have been your 3 key learnings working across a diverse range of industries, right?
Yeah, Roudra, I think SAP has been catering to 25 different industries from the last 40 years, right? What COVID-19 has proved is that these technology innovations have been helping, in managing this particular academic in a very timely and systematic, manner, right? The biggest lesson that we have learned is from this COVID-19 pandemic has been to stay prepared well in advance against any crisis that at an individual level or collectively at company levels. All we need to do to fight such an epidemic is to have the preparedness. Right? That's the biggest lesson that we as an organization have learned at the individual level, as well as dealing with a lot of our customers in these multiple industries. See, what we've actually learned is this pandemic has actually created some disruptive business models, right? And these business models actually have provided customers with an enhanced experience at a reduced cost. For example, people who have actually embraced this new disruptive business models have gained very substantially, and they have taken a dominant position in the market. I'll give you a couple of examples, right? Some of our customers, especially in the industrial machinery space, etc., right? They've changed their business models rapidly to manufacture, say sanitizers or hands-free, touch-free equipment for sanitizer dispensers, right? Some of our leading automobile companies have quickly changed to manufacturing ventilators, right? So these are some things. What we learned that if a company has a solid technology backbone, you can rapidly change. Of course, it will take some time, but it doesn't take the time that probably a company that did not have a technology backbone to address to, right? Another example is all these fashion companies that we actually see. They quickly were able to manufacture fashionable masks, right, and affordable masks. This was possible, and they were able to adapt to these new demands in the market, right? And there were few other industries which we learned, which were actually least impacted, or which were not at all impacted, which fell into the essential categories like life sciences or pharma, right? They had to continue, but what they did was, because since they had a technology background as well, a technology backbone as well, they were able to actually meet the surge in demand. For example, some medical equipment manufacturers who were doing oximeters. I mean, it was never heard, right? I mean, suddenly there's pent-up demand, and there's huge demand that they could capture it. Similarly, in the pharma domain. So I think to sum it up, I think our learning has been preparedness and have a strong technology backbone to meet any kind of crisis that is ready to come in the future for us.
Interesting. So I think going forward, a lot of companies will have sort of there is a new role that I hear is being created in many companies called a business continuity officer sort of role. And this is a new role, right? I mean, nobody thought of a BCP sort of role designed for the company. So there's definitely going to be a plan B, so to say, available for every company in case a crisis hits. How do we sort of deal with it? And I'm sure technology has to play a significant role depending on the kind of industry that you're working with. Coming to Mr. Goenka, as per reports, India's steel demand is expected to drop by 7.7% this year. I'm sure the large share will be the first half of the year. So what are the major reasons that have caused this drop in your opinion, and what measures do you suggest for India to establish itself as a steel manufacturing hub post the pandemic? And one thing I wanted to sort of add also, something that Mr. Khetan mentioned as to how globally the demand is, companies are looking at India to sort of offset China. And is that also true for steel? Because China has been a major exporter of steel for many years now, right?
In fact, China is importer of the Indian steel.
So you're from India?
Yes, a lot of iron ore, fine, semi-finished products like billets, they are going...
Processed steel as well, yeah?
Processed steel not that much, because they are also manufacturers. So they take the semis and the raw materials and finish them. So I will concentrate on the point of India being a steel hub. So India is now producing around 110 million tons of crude steel.
Okay.
And India is the second largest manufacturer of the crude steel. India is the largest producer of the sponge iron and the DRI in the world. But in India, the government policies are not that much favorable to the steel industry. The steel industry is divided into two sectors, primary sector and the steel sector, secondary steel sector. We come from the secondary sector.
Right.
And in secondary steel sector, there are a lot of players, thousands of players are there. But we all together contributing 40% of the steel manufacturing in India. But the respect, the due place which should be given to the steel secondary sector, it's not being given because everyone is isolated. So the primary producers, they can approach the government in a better way. And they get the better facilities, amenities and care from the government. I tell you, if government gives credence to the secondary steel sector, it can play a revolution in the steel industry. In India, the government need to give the importance to steel industry. You must have heard there are a lot of big primary producers. They have the bank loan of lakhs of crores of rupees. They have gone bankrupt. Now they are again for resale. You cannot tell me the name of the secondary steel sectors because our gestation period is 1 year, 2 years. Our cost of investment is very less compared to our production. With less investment, within a short period, we can start our production. And the quality of secondary steel and primary steel is there is only a point of difference. Is some technical point I will clear you. In our set of style of manufacturing, the phosphorus is little higher. But that is in the context of India, it's a tropical country and a hot country, it does not play any role. But I don't know from where the VSI standards have been set long before ago. These need to be revised. If the government start taking the steel from the secondary sector, they will be saving 20% of the cost. They will get cheaper by 20%. And the steel the secondary sector, they use the sponge iron and DRI, which is manufactured by the out of iron ore and fines. So India has got a huge stock of iron ore. Now what India is doing, India is exporting the iron ore and importing the finished. And when our Prime Minister is saying local for vocal, what I suggest, we should keep our raw material within our country. Why should we export it? Let the Indian companies use it. Let them make the finished product and let them export it. So the impetus should be on the raw material should not be allowed to export. The finish should be allowed to export. And the secondary steel sector, the steel of that, it should be allowed in the infrastructure places. So with the less investment within the short period of time at a cheaper rate, you can get better steel, quantum of steel, and it can serve India. Now, if secondary steel sector, they are buying scrap from the foreign countries. If this sponge iron is allowed and it is developed, you need not import any steel. Again, you are saving on the foreign exchange.
Got it. Understood.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, this is interesting. I think we recently saw a very successful scheme, the PLI scheme for the tech sector being launched, right? I mean, where we saw a lot of investments from Apple and Samsung. I think similarly, if there are incentives that the government can announce for the processing steel plant, you're saying that a lot more investments will be done by domestic players, and I'm sure global players will invest in India as well, right? I mean, as long as the incentives are there. And the other thing you're suggesting essentially is that iron ore should be disincentivized in terms of exports. I mean,
yes.
Through whichever way. I mean, it can be a tariff barrier. Right, got it.
One more point is there. The central government wants that open access electricity should be available for the industries. In fact, we are getting open access power apart from the DISCOM power. It is a very cheap power. But the DISCOM people, they don't want that the industry should take the advantage of the open access power. They put additional cost, cross-subsidy surcharge, additional surcharge, they make it, when we buy the open access power, without anything, we have to give the DISCOM, the electricity board, per unit, this around 2 to 3 rupees. Without doing anything, they are getting this amount. Losses are different. So they don't want that the central government policy should be implemented. If that is implemented, we get a cheaper power, we get the raw material, our products are allowed in the infrastructure. Steel will flourish like anything.
Mr. Somani, coming to you, sir, my next question is to you. Do you believe that digitization can play a key role in uplifting and helping organizations in the iron and steel industry? In which major areas do you see a potential for digitization and growth?
Digitization has helped all the organization, whoever has done and taken advantage of this, and it is going to help in future also. Whoever adopt digitization or technological upgradation of their innovation organizations, they will be helped in customer service and marketing, both the areas. And in production, I can't share much because I'm not having that experience in production. But I think it can help producers more than the marketing organization.
Mr. Goenka, maybe you could add to this about so from a more distribution point of view. I think Mr. Somani addressed it, but How do you believe digitization can play a key role in the iron and steel industry? I mean, what is the potential that you see for digitization?
You see, digitalization may be helpful in the procurement of the raw material if we are in, if we want to buy through on some options. There we can get the advantage of our accounts is already completely digitalized. So I don't think that whatever we can do, we have already done. But where the production is concerned, our accounting is by computer, and our customers, we are talking about the telephone. There is nothing to do with the this thing.
Okay. Mr. Palakkil, my second last question to you. What are the primary challenges that you feel adoption of technology can solve for organizations today? I think you partially answered it in the previous question, but just to sort of...
I think, the challenges that technology can solve for any organization actually varies from organization to organization, right? It actually depends on the digital maturity that the organization currently is, right? But what I would like to say is probably if we just take 2 steps back from this question to actually say, okay, what is stopping organizations? What are the challenges that an organization feels that they don't want to take this what you call adoption of technology or digitization jump, right? If you look at it, primarily it has been in 3-4 areas, right? One is issues with lack of skilled labor or resources. They feel that, okay, if I adopt this technology, does my employees or my organization actually capable of handling this technology? That's one of the questions that we have seen a lot of SMEs, a lot of companies actually put forward for themselves, right? That's one of the things that they want to address. Point number 2 is lack of awareness around the benefit what technology can bring and what is the ROI that that the company can get by adopting a certain technology. That's point number 2, right? Point number 3 is how reliable is this particular solution that I'm actually looking at, right? Does it bring time to value to my organization? Does it help me perform better than what I'm doing today? That's the third. And fourth is like all organizations are a cost, right? Am I in a position where I can adopt this particular technology, looking at what objectives that I have kept in terms of growth or vision that I have for my company, right? So if you see any technology per se today, if you see digitization or even adoption of technology, I think it's just going to go increase. What we have learned also in this pandemic is that we have seen organizations, like I mentioned before, organizations which had a level of maturity was able to function from work from home at the same time, like what taking a cue from Mr. Nandy said, right? I mean, they were able to actually design something for home UPSs, design a service which is do it yourself, etc. So I think it's more in terms of the challenges are the mindset that the organization needs to change, and also technology I feel helps you become more prepared, not only for the pandemic but in terms of being more more competitive in the global market today.
Thank you, sir. It would be fair to say that COVID-19 has altered the long-term and the short-term goals of each organization. And this is really my last question for all of our speakers. If you had to outline 2 long-term and 2 short-term goals for your organization, what would they be? Mr. Khetan, if you could talk about your short-term and 2 long-term goals.
Short-term goal is that we have to recover the losses what is happened due to pandemic. That is our first aim, by increasing our skill power and whatever best management and taking benefit of the present market plus, which is going towards the plus. That is the first short-term target. Long-term target is set the best industry of our state or our country. That is my first. That is our long-term goal.
Mr. Somani, would you want to mention your short-term and long-term goal as a company as you sort of emerge out of this very unprecedented situation?
Yes, Mr. Roudra.
Yes, sir.
An important goal that is both long-term and short-term also. See, what we do short-term is to achieve the result which will help us in long-term also.
Right, sir.
To increase our customer base, reaching to wider number of and wider area of customers, that can help us in surviving and growing. Another short-term goal is the project construction, what is going on, it is of best of the quality. Once the projects are completed, our quality will be known to the people of Hyderabad and surroundings also. That will help us in getting premium for our construction, what we are going to have in near future.
Wonderful. So what I hear is a focus on quality that sort of sets the brand apart, and thereby you're able to achieve a premium in the market going forward.
Our company is always associated with quality products only in steel also. So the quality of construction also what we are going to have. In fact, our contractors also have been surprised by our quality. They have been telling, sir, your quality standards are so high, you can little have them lower.
Wonderful.
We want to maintain that only.
That's great to know, sir. Especially in the real estate sector, which is, I mean, as a user, as a end buyer, you know all the challenges that one faces. Mr. Goenka, just wanted to understand your short-term. I mean, the question was actually 2 short-term and 2 long-term goals, but even one is great, sir.
For us, our short-term goal is to contain our expenditures, to maintain our sales. And for our long-term, we are going for expansion. We are going for backward expansion. We are increasing our present production capacity by 25%. We are going to make a step forward for the quality from 550 to 550D. That is the quality standard. And we are exploring the new market so that we can produce more and sell more. So when all around in the production, in the sales, in the quality, and in the backward expansion, everything we are planning. And we are doing it.
Interesting. So increasing our product range, output at the same time, and being very bullish about prospects over the next one or two years. Mr. Nandy, the last sort of to sum this up, your short-term and long-term goals, given the situation that.
So let's say, first of all, you know, I mean, in terms of really the goal of the organization, I mean, that I don't think changes because of these. Whether the goal, the DNA, or the ethos of the organization, that doesn't change, that remains. In terms of, let's say, short-term objectives, long-term objectives, one is on the business side, you know, that how do we recover, get back to 2019 scenario. This I'm keeping aside. This is everyday stuff that we are doing. On the other hand, this subject of digital transformation that we touched upon, this is both short-term, mid-term, long-term. This is a journey that will continue, and we will continue to invest in this because for me, one of the things that is essential is to really have, let's say, a mid and a long-term view about the impact of technology on your business. Okay? And which is where a lot of this decision-making in terms of cost versus benefit becomes more easier if you have a holistic view, mid-term as well as long-term. If you only have a short-term view, it is always very costly and it doesn't help in the decision-making. So this is the journey that we will continue. Then more in terms of long-term, a few things that we have learned, which will become a part of our, let's say, long-term strategy also. This subject of having a concept of almost like a war room, which allows your organization to be really agile. Okay. This is something that this challenge has taught us. Okay. So this is something that we will keep even for the long term, having a core group which has the ability to take quick decisions. And therefore we having the ability to be really agile. Productivity, efficiency, this is a given. This is something that will constantly keep on driving. And finally, I will say what I think differentiates one organization from the other is, I strongly believe it is, let's say, it is the human capital that makes a big difference. And this is something that we will continuously keep on investing. We have been investing during the time that this challenge was there. And this is something that we will continuously keep on investing, because finally, I think it is the Numericans, if I may use the word, that will make a difference. Okay. So the technology, operations, machinery, these are all tools. But finally, the difference would be made by the people. And this is something that we will, whether mid-term or long-term, this is something that we will continue to invest on.
Understood. Mr. Palakkil, would you want to sort of sum this up in terms of a short-term and long-term goal, and especially your interactions with so many companies across industries?
Yeah, I think, Roudra, I think like what aptly Mr. Nandy said, right? Organization goals has to remain intact irrespective of what circumstances that one has to go through, right? Because that is the eventual thing that should not change, right? But what actually changes is like, in terms of what you are doing around it based on the situations. So if you look at SAP, I think customer is always going to be the center of our circle or the nucleus. And what we are doing or what we are changing today is making our solutions and technologies more and more relevant, right, to the present situation. And at the end of the day, help those organizations meet those midterm or the long-term goals. So from SAP's perspective, I think we still have our goals and objectives still intact. And for us, it is about customer experience and customer success. Since we cater to 25 different industries, right, our solutions are a little complex. And not only it caters to the backend system, but it's more in terms of even front office, how our customers interact with their customers, how our customers interact with their vendors, partners, etc., etc. So I think we would want, our focus right now is actually to ensure that we do everything that is possible for our customers during this time to ensure that they are successful in their goals.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you for joining our show. This brings us to the end of our discussion today. I want to especially thank our guest speakers for taking the time out to share their valuable opinions with us. A big shout out to SAP for partnering with us for this series. This is the third episode of Hit Refresh. And we will be back with another episode soon. This is us signing off. Stay well and take care.